podcast. It's the Visionary Mind. I see it, I think it, I make it happen. We are here at a great facility. We have two great guests with me today. Can y'all introduce yourselves?
My name is Jeff Swanson. I'm the Director of Cultivation here at Pleasantrees.
My name is Justin Brantley. I'm the Director of Wholesale Sales here at Pleasantrees.
I want to get into you guys' background. How did you guys get into the cannabis space, and where are you guys from? How did you grow up?
All right, I fell into the cannabis world. Okay, I was not ever expecting to make this a long-term goal. Sure, I had my little 20 by 20 tent in my basement, 4 lights in there, 12 plants at a time, doing my best to keep those alive. Knew I wasn't the greatest grower at the time, but, fumbled through it, learned a lot along the way. And then Pleasantrees came about, and I was in the community mental health field for a long time, 10 years, making a very good career out of that, working with the state compliance on the adult foster care and stuff like that, and had some colleagues reach out to me because they knew my background in compliance. They were like, hey, we're part of a startup company, good opportunity in the cannabis world. And back when everything grew on trees, money grew on trees, and it was plentiful as all could be, they were like, we know how to grow weed, we know how to do all this, but nobody knows how to do it compliantly. So we're looking for a compliance person. They took my background from adult foster care, working with Laura and stuff like that over at the state level, and I transitioned here at Pleasantrees, and I was their first compliance manager. And spent a long time here after hours, when everybody had left for the day, after the plants were taken care of, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this? And I'm bashing my head against the wall, and I'm like, I gotta will this into existence. I gotta make sure that there's an easier way of keeping everything compliant here. And learned one thing after the other, read every rule there was under the state legislation, learned my way through metric, and slowly but surely made this one of the most compliant facility, I think, in the state. We were very, very proud of that. CRA held us to a very high standard for a very, very long time, and it's been really nice to work with the state representatives and my team. I think we've created a benchmark along the state, and then slowly but surely, did those duties very, very well, and started dipping my toe into helping the growers track their successes and their losses a lot better, and learning my way around the process of the plants, learning my way around the process of the facility. Slowly but surely, they decided to make me the general manager of the facility, the director of cultivation. So now everything kind of falls under that umbrella. And I still like to keep my hand on a lot of the compliance levers because that's where my heart is, but I lean heavily on my head growers for understanding what the plants need. And like I was telling you earlier, it's a collective group effort here. Not one man runs this show. Not one man is the star of this show. This is my team, and I've got one of the best teams in the world here. We do things on a caregiver type level, on a mass scale. So my success is all deriving from the team and the people that I got working for me. And yeah, that's how I got started in the cannabis world.
Absolutely. How about yourself?
Man, very, very similar. Fell into it. I come from the sports and entertainment background. I own a sports and entertainment marketing agency. I've worked with players at the NBA level, NFL level. I've been in this world, in the sports space, for almost 20 years, and interacted with some of the Pleasantrees brand, and saw not only the branding side and the forward facing, customer facing side, but I saw the care and the attention that goes into what is put out into market. I saw the quality. I saw the passion from the people you talk to. I tell Jeff all the time. You talked earlier. He's not an on-camera guy, but the reality is, when he talks about what he does and talks about how they do it here in this facility, the passion pours out, right? Like, if you see that this isn't just another job for him. This isn't like wake up, punch a clock, and leave. He joked about the factory mindset, but the reality is, because of his diligence and his preparation, things are dialed in like a factory.
Right.
But nobody has that factory worker mindset. Like, right. All right, well, shit, I gotta go punch a clock today. I gotta pound the stone like Flintstone. Just bumping into and encountering everybody and the level of passion they had about what they did. One of the things that stood out to me, prior to even really encountering a lot of the people within Pleasantrees, I bumped into some of his grow team, and I would see him places or different events or be introduced to him, and all of them have been there 4 years. I've been there 5 years.
The longevity.
If you know anything about the cannabis space, man,
it's a revolving door.
It's ever. So for people to be there and say, hey, I'm committed to this, I've been here for X amount of time period, it just let me know that something was special there. Fell in love with the Death Row Cannabis brand. That near and dear to my heart. That's all of our brands are. But that's one of the ones that really made me want to be a part of this team and made me want to do whatever I could to learn. And I'm still, very much learning the cannabis space. It's the learning curve, and I tell everybody I've been here at Pleasantrees for a year. It's like dog years, man. It's like cannabis moves so quickly and things change so rapidly. And there's such a steep learning curve. But yeah, I fell into it never in my wildest imagination. I grew up, I was an athlete. I played at the collegiate level. We were mind controlled that, it was like.
No cannabis.
Right, yeah, like cannabis is the worst thing since sliced bread. They'll hand you a Norco every day of the week, or they'll give you an injection because you're hurting, but nothing that will be able to handle and heal in a holistic way. And I think that's the thing that, I get most excited about is identifying the different terpenes and how they interact and impact certain things in your life. And, just figuring out just the science behind it, figuring out just the medicinal properties. So, really excited to be a part of the team and your own journey.
Absolutely. Question for both of y'all. What about your previous roles before you came here still plays a part and still helps you fulfill what you're doing now?
I think even though I work with the plants, it's a human element. I came from community mental health, dealing with mental health for disabled adults and things like that. But that is very much true in any industry, because every job has its stresses. Every person has their own unique story. Working with people is the first step to success in any regard. Okay, teamwork, communication, the whole 9 yards. That's what leads to success at the end of the day. The plant's going to do its thing. It needs its environment. It needs to be fed. But when I have happy and healthy staff, they work better for me. They put their energy into this plant. They put their energy into these efforts. And at the end of the day, everything kind of ripples out from there. So I think at the end of the day, my skill set with people, my energy that I put into making sure that my staff is happy and healthy, that's what plays the biggest role into my success here.
For me, I'd say, cannabis really is at the intersection of culture, right? So a lot of the people that I interact with, whether it be in the sports world or the entertainment world, there's such a crossover. There's such a, like, those that aren't involved in the cannabis space are curious about or want to get involved in the cannabis space. So there's a lot of crossover in that perspective. And I think the other thing is, branding and storytelling, right? Some people do byproducts, right? And it's interesting. I went out to lunch yesterday, and there was a drink that I'd never had before. We tried it, and I looked it up. I'm like, I got to order that, right? Some people do shop like that, but a lot of people shop based off of the story behind the product, or, what it is about that, or, the branding, the marketing, the storytelling, all of those elements. So bringing that kind of from my past to this, and being able to say, all right, what is the story? What are we trying to say here? What is the messaging? What do we want people to understand? What do we want people to take away from that experience, whether it be within the Pleasantrees stores, right? What is their takeaway or their experience, and how does that, impact their future buying patterns, their future shopping patterns, or, the different brands, right? Like, what is the end effect or the feeling they get when they shop from that brand or they smoke that brand, and really being able to understand, those sides of it. Those are things that I brought from my previous life.
Absolutely. Go into more of what you just said. How would you describe this brand, and what is the story, and what is some of the key components that people can understand from this brand?
From my perspective and my vantage point, we have multiple brands that live underneath that Pleasantrees umbrella. Pleasantrees is the steward of some amazing brands, from Death Row Records Cannabis, Binsk. We have a partnership with Clout King.
Okay.
And that's one of our other facilities. Their own facility, they have their own grower there, but Jeff oversees the compliance factor of that. He oversees just the cadence and the structure of that. We're all one team and one family.
Okay.
So each of those different brands has their own ethos and has their own story and who they speak to and who they stand for. I think, first and foremost, going to the top and talking about Pleasantrees for me is that consistency, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to let Jeff talk about it a little bit more in depth, but, the amount of harvest that this team has gone through and done, and the fact that not a single gram of remediated flower has made it into the market, to me, that's,
exceptional.
exceptional,
Rare. Very
right?
rare.
Especially in this market. And I think not enough people know, understand, or care about what they're smoking, what they're bringing into their lungs. You think about it, right? Like how many of us back in the day, we might have bought a Wild Irish Rose. We might have bought a Steel Reserve because that's all we had, right?
Right.
But how many of us are waking up each day and saying, man, I'm going to go to the liquor store. I'm buying the cheapest thing they have, and that's what I'm going to consume. No, we care about what we put into our bodies.
Right.
It should be the same way in cannabis states.
Absolutely.
And knowing the care that goes into the product, from the trimming to the post-harvest process to the fact that we don't remediate anything. Like, if it hasn't happened, it won't happen. Those are things that stand out to me, just overarching as a whole. But then you get into each of the individual brands, and like Bent's and their downstream genetics and what they bring to the table from their genetic profile. And it's really interesting, the terpenes, and seeing the crossover from whether you're talking about the flower, you're talking about the carts, you're talking about their pre-rolls. That's very intriguing to me. Cloud King and their strain diversity, and just the outside the box thinking that they do over there in their facility, and just the craft nature of that. And then you get into Death Row and the tie back to the culture, the tie back to the community, the ability to sit back and think about, man, where was I when I heard murder was the case for the first time, right? And like, thinking about that strain and saying, oh shit, like I can sit back and I can smoke a little bit and I can think about, my childhood or that nostalgic effect. So each of the different brands, none of them fit into like a cookie cutter mold. It's not a one size fits all. There's a different spot for a different person. And being in the wholesale world, I get that, right? Like, I understand there's certain stores where a brand's not necessarily going to work. But the great thing is we have a diverse portfolio where we can say, you know what, that might not be a great fit for you, but this right here is going to align with what your customers are looking for.
Right, kind of like a multifaceted kind of approach. I love that.
You nailed that on the head. That was very, very well said. I couldn't say it any better. It was just a bunch of people that came together that love weed and kind of started, threw our hat in the ring and said, we can do this too. We're going to do it on a scale. We're going to put a lot of love and energy into it. So people that fell in love with the plant at the end of the day.
How many harvests are we on now?
We are collectively between both facilities. We're approaching our 500. We just celebrated our 300th in this facility alone. Blue Sapphire, our other sister facility, has eclipsed the 100, so I'm circling the 500th harvest for early 2026. Yep, that's a lifetime worth of work. Not many people can say they've had 500 harvests that have been successful. No remediated products out of any of them.
So an estimation of how many pounds would you say in that 500 harvest?
We're doing almost about 9,000 to 10,000 pounds a year. So we're probably close to a little over 40,000, 50,000 pounds.
So let's go a little lower.
Well, that's only from the main grow too. That we're probably approaching that 60,000 pound mark between both facilities.
So 60,000 pounds, 454 grams. We're talking 27 million grams. And we've never remediated a single one. I think that's something that,
That's fire.
Yeah.
That's fire. That's rare too.
It is. It's that preparation, no cross-contamination, making sure that those environments are dialed in every step of the way, from the end of the flower phase where you may get mold growth to the drying process where, a lot of people sprint through these other steps. And we take it, that low and slow process that is going to create a slightly more premium product to get a better product to the consumer level. I want you guys to leave with a good sense of who we are, a good taste in your mouth by the time you leave with our product at the end of the day.
Yeah. So put you all on the spot, why do people remediate cannabis in the first place? Like,
what can't pass testing.
Money, right? So you saw all that goes into the process that his team does, right? From the mother phase to the veg cycle to, there's a lot of time, money, resources invested into that, right? So a lot of times, and I think that this is part of the reason why people will, look at corporate cannabis and it just gets a bad name across the top, right? People will look at that and say, I've got to get cost recovery. I've got to get something out of that. And so, they say, hey, we can remediate it because currently it's allowed within the rules, right? There's nobody saying that you can't do it. The customers, in my opinion, are not educated enough on the process to be able to say, you know what? No, I'm not going for that. And once that happens, you'll see a lot less people remediate because they'll realize people aren't going to put that into their lungs. All it's doing, that mold that's on the plant, still in the plant. It's just been microwaved and killed from a traceable level where it's no longer showing up in testing. but it still exists.
Yeah.
And to talk a little bit about like Michigan's testing standards. Michigan has a very strict testing standards. 100,000 microbial units for adult use, 10,000 for medical. That's 10 times lower. That's exceptional. It's very difficult to pass medical standards. All of our weed passes medical standards. It is very, very rare when I have anything pop above that, and it's all well within the range of the adult use standards. So I always like to boast about that our weed is all medically compliant. And you compare that to some other states. And it's been a while since I've looked into some other states or even Canada's levels, but I know at one point Canada was 250,000 microbial units for both medical and recreational. So Michigan's less than half of that for adult use, and 10,000 for medical. That's a very tough standard to reach.
Absolutely.
So a lot of companies can't do it, and that's why they remediate. It's either that or throw all your product in the garbage. At the end of the day, they've got tens of thousands of dollars wrapped up into that, so I need to salvage something out of it, and the customer doesn't know that the difference at the end of the day. There's nothing on the bag that says that it's been remediated. I would love for there one day for there to be a stamp, for there to be a sticker on that does show the customer what they're actually putting into their body, but that's a fight for a different day.
Do you feel like companies like yourselves, where y'all have a thorough process, you don't remediate, that maybe it should be some type of like education or outreach to the community to teach them like the differences between remediation? Because I know, you know, but most people really don't know.
Yes.
We've done some campaigns with it. I think, without a doubt, there's more that we could do, there's more this industry as a whole could do to talk about it and educate on it. I think, unfortunately, currently you're seeing the Michigan market is pretty much driven by price right now. So, a lot of the consumers, until there's somebody that says, I'm going to invest thousands of dollars into billboards, into just like top funnel, top down marketing to let everybody know what this means. There's so many of the consumers that's just never going to filter and trickle down to that are walking in and they're shopping based off of price, right? The reality is you get what you pay for. And I think that's the main thing that, when I have conversations with people about cannabis and about, why I choose the products I choose, why I choose to work where I work, and why I promote it as hard as I do, is because I know I can stand by it. I know at the end of the day, nobody's going to call me. They might call me and say, hey, I didn't like the bud structure, or maybe like
nitpicky kind of stuff.
I would have loved if the nut size was a little bit bigger. Those are things that we can talk about, right? Like, those are negotiables. To me, hey, it tested positive for mold. That's a non-negotiable, right? Like, that's not something I can get behind or I could be a part of. So I think it's just more, and I think it's coming. I think people like yourself having these conversations and showing kind of, behind the curtain, or behind, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right? It's not just, that candy bar that we're buying at the end of the road, but where did it start at? And the more these conversations take place and the more people dive into it and the dialogue happens, I think the biggest thing is we're still, the Michigan cannabis market is still infantile, right? Like, if we're being just realistic about where we're at from a legal standpoint, there's not enough in the market to the point where the conversation is as open flowing as it could be to educate everybody. You think about, coming away from, prohibition, alcohol, right? Like, a lot of people for years after that still weren't openly discussing their alcohol usage or what they're doing, because they still feel that level of judgment or that level of society looking down. Like, Jeff, I know for a fact we've had that conversation where he goes to a grocery store after being here for a full day and he smells like weed, and you've got the people that'll look and they still look like, like,
you smell like weed.
Right. So there's not enough open dialogue and open forum for us to talk through, like, hey, what are you smoking? Why are you smoking it? What are you choosing? Once those things become a little bit more, steady state, I think you'll see people start to, the alcohol space, right? Like, people kind of drifted away from malt liquor. Right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Why is that happening? Because of the education and the conversation around it. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in the fact of just the economy, cannabis companies are boosting the economy. Like, the different cities, even cities like this, like, you guys are bringing jobs to this area that they may have never ever had. So you're able to not only educate them on how cannabis can help, but you're providing, stability to families and to young people who want jobs, who don't necessarily want to go to college or choose different career paths, but you can still have a career within cannabis.
And I'd like to backtrack just a little bit on that, because I think you hit a great nail on the head. Is it's not necessarily the kids don't want to go to college. Is the kids aren't motivated or don't fully aren't they're not excited. They're not. There's something doesn't quite resonate with them.
Right.
I'll tell you. You know, I was one of those kids. Like chemistry wasn't my best subject, right?
Right.
And I made it through college. Luckily, I had sports to help along with that. But I'll never forget my very first week on the job. I'm sitting with one of my coworkers, and he's walking me through, and he's explaining the difference between rosin and resin, and he's talking through the process and how it happens. And literally, I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and I'm like, if they would have broken down like this in chemistry class,
It would have been way different.
understood, because I would have been like, damn, let me. So you're gonna have kids, I think, that would be more into the math of, hey, you like weed, maybe you shouldn't, right? But like,
Right.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah, right.
But you're a high school age kid, you've been around, your parents might smoke or whatever, and that's something that gets you excited. You start to break down the math, you start to break down the chemistry. You might have somebody that is into growing, is into the botany side of things, and now there's entire courses at universities that provide that.
Horticulture.
So I just think that there's a lot of opportunities in the space. Once those conversations, yes, there's jobs that are being provided now, but I think there's whole career pathways that a lot of kids aren't even looking at or aren't delving into. Again, some of it from society pressure and people looking at it with a negative lens, but a lot just from exposure and them not knowing what exists and what's here.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you look at the lab testing, or like the different facilities, like I'm starting to see an uptick in more trends of that, where people are like, okay, where did this get tested at, or who's testing these, or why certain products don't test well versus how they do test well, or why don't they test well or do test well. Like I'm starting to see a more upward tick of people trying to educate themselves through just curiosity. Like I smoke enough weed to where I should know, like, oh, okay, I see this company, this is where it tested from, this is where it harvested, this is when it hit the store. So I feel like it's an uptick in like curiosity.
Yeah, there's an uptick in curiosity, but along with that comes the phantom numbers, right? Like, oh, it tested at this percent, so it has to be good.
No.
It tested at this, so it has to be.
Listen, I ain't gonna cut you off, but one of the things on our podcast, we tell people all the time, the test number doesn't matter. I've had some strands that were like tested at 50%, and it just be like, you're just smoking air. And then you get something that's like 15 and 20. That seems like more of a sweet spot. But if you get one that tests like 15 and like before it gets to 30, those strands for me usually just kind of does it.
I mean, it's interesting because to that point, there's product that we've had in the team that I think is phenomenal. There's product that we've had in the low 30s I think is phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, there's other things that are just as important, if not more important, but it's like that's the one tangible item that people can look at and pull from, and they can use that to kind of gauge the quality. It's the same thing with alcohol by volume, right? Like people take that wine bottle, they're like, oh, that's 8%.
Right.
It's just I think a lot of people just like strength and product, right? And that perceived strength and product from the testing percentage is something that I like us to see. I like to see that become a footnote and not the focal point, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, that's something, and you're aware of it. You're aware of where it tested at, but what about the terpenes, right? Like, what about shopping by terpene, or shopping by effect, or shopping by even if you find a brand that you love, and you're like, every time I smoke this brand, it's fire. I don't even care what the percentage is on the back. Let me smell it. Let me see what it. Okay, cool. Let's try it out.
Right.
So I think there's room for conversation there for sure.
Absolutely. And I think it still goes back into the education. I know companies hire brand ambassadors, but having people like yourselves, like you two, where you're passionate about it, you're educated about it, and then you have a sense of, okay, I'm not going to gatekeep this information. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know, so that way you make the best educated decision.
An informed consumer is a better consumer for all of us. It's a better consumer for the entire Michigan market. In my world, bumping into other people that are in the wholesale space or other people that own brands and hearing the complaint about the race to the bottom. And for me, the way to avoid that and the way to get people to be able to hold the market value, like you think about it, last year we had the highest amount of sales transaction-wise in the entire country. We also had the highest overall dollar amount in cannabis sales. But we also had, if not the lowest, one of the lowest price per ounce in the country.
Yeah.
Right? So, when we start to have those conversations about quality versus quantity, we start to have those conversations about, what is a quality experience for a customer, and we educate that customer and get them shopping more based off of quality. You get less of that race to the bottom, less of that. And still, there's room to be price conscious within that, right? There's room to, there's something for everybody.
Right.
There's an opportunity and availability for everybody. Steel Reserve still sells. I see it every time I go into. It's there. Yeah. So it's not saying that that's going to carve completely out that lane and it's going to make it inaccessible and people aren't going to be able to access good cannabis. But I think just educating on what's out there and being able to explain and have that conversation. Why is this a premium product? Why is it at the top shelf? Why is it, a little bit more expensive than it's the experience, right? And if that's what you care about, if you care about having a premium experience, well, these are the brands that align with that. And I'm not saying that we're a unicorn in that effect. There's a lot of really good companies that do some great things.
Absolutely.
And aren't remediating their products, and they're bringing great products to market. And I love rubbing elbows with those guys. I love seeing them and having these conversations. And you'd be surprised. That's one of the other things for me that is like the sports space. You don't have a lot of gatekeepers. Like here in this cannabis space, I bump into people. I've got some great friends with other companies that we all have the same job to do. Yeah. They'd be like, hey, do you have a contact for this store? No, you don't. All right, here, I got you. All right. Contact. Can you send me the person for this store? So it's really this cannabis community. It's a brother and sisterhood that I think is really dope, and I think that's going to be important and intact for the scene to continue to grow.
Absolutely. So to dive deeper into that, what are your thoughts about the current state of the Michigan market?
It's tough. Obviously we got a lot of hurdles to overcome, and it's unfortunate the way things are trending. But I think because there is such a brotherhood here, we're going to put up a collective effort to fight against it, and we're going to do everything we can from a micro level, and hopefully it echoes up the chain to the correct path, and we can get a more favorable outcome for the future of cannabis.
I'd say, obviously there's two sides to look at the current state of Michigan market. There's one, obviously, we talk about the price per pound, and we talk about the price per ounce, and we talk about that race to the bottom. That's one issue that needs to be attacked. And then we talk about, obviously, everybody saw the news with the taxation and everything from that perspective. So there's two lanes that need to be attacked, and they need to be attacked individually. When you look at the taxation, I was really proud to see, all of the people within the space decide to sneak up and come out and go to the Capitol and have those conversations.
Right.
So the point that you made is more spending time talking through how this impacts the overall overarching economy, how it impacts people and their ability to feed their families and take care of their families, to upkeep their neighborhoods, to become homeowners and things. So there's a lot of different things that it comes from just the amplification and being able to tell those stories and do things like you're doing, humanizing cannabis, right?
Right.
As long as you only look at it as the plant, we look at it as the weed, you look at it as the top line revenue.
Yeah.
At that point, people are going to say, oh yeah, we have to tax that. And I can't be mad at them for viewing it that way, right? Because they're looking at it from that vantage point. For us, it's our job to humanize it and bring all those other pieces to the puzzle so people can see that there's real live people behind these plants.
Right.
There's real live people every single day that are pouring their heart and soul into it, that have left other industries to come be a part of this industry, that are the lifeblood of this industry that is generating tons of revenue for the state of Michigan. If you think about it, with it not being federally illegal, it's not a scenario where people are able to then write off their their expenses and write off their losses and things like that. So there's a lot of money that's already flowing into the state of Michigan through, these cultivators, these dispensary owners, you name it. I think it's, and I'm seeing a lot of it, and I'm really excited to see it, is the humanization behind that, and people coming out and talking about the number of employees they have, the number of families that are affected, the number of, jobs that have been created based off of the Michigan cannabis market. I think that the more we do that, the more we push through that, and we make it a human face to the market, I think it will allow us to have a little bit more room there at the state level and being able to talk through those things. Those are things that are going to take time, right?
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. On the other side, with the costs within the market and that race to the bottom, then goes back to education and being able to talk through, what goes into it, right? If people really saw what goes into growing a pound of flower, they would understand that, no, it's impossible for me to provide you with $1 pre-roll, right? Like,
right.
And if you are getting $1 pre-roll, you have to ask yourself,
is that really
what are you getting
smoking
with that $1 pre-roll, right?
Yeah.
So on both sides, education is education from different lenses.
What are some things that, if you, outside of what we talked about, what are some things that you guys will want to change within the market, and what's some things that you would like to keep as a mainstay.
More of a question for you. You deal with the market more than I do. I'm inside these four walls every day.
Even for you, how we talked about how bringing in certain strands and like doing what the market wants, like from your perspective, why don't you think people bring in those older classic strands, and then why is it important to bring in those new genetics to kind of offset what the consumer doesn't get?
Well, for a while there was like consumers want new, which is great. Everybody wants to innovate. Everybody wants to find that next unicorn. Everybody wants to find that that wonderful smoke that resonates with them. But then you got the other people who are starting. They've tried all these different strains, and yeah, it's wonderful. They taste great. They get me high. Yada yada yada. But something resonates with those older strains from when they first started smoking that takes them back to a time that was special to them, when it was a little bit of taboo, and I'm sneaking out back and I'm smoking behind the garage or whatever, and I can get caught, and things like that. So I think people want to feel that way again, bringing back that old feeling of, ooh, this is exciting and this is something fun to do. It was an activity. It's not just something you do at the end of the day. When you were going to get high back in the day, it was like, all right, I'm going to get high and I'm going to go off and do it. And it was the activity itself to do. Nowadays, it's just something you do along with the activity. A little bit of a side tangent there. So it's cool to have a new variety of new things, but I do like to see people trickling back to want to bring back that past, bring back that old feeling where they had a simpler time in their life and it was fun and exciting. But new weed is impressive. It is beautiful. It smells. It's wonderful. There's positives to both ends of that scale that I like on both ends. So I want to capture the essence of the old, I want to bring in the new that's always exciting, keeping things fresh, things to try, the whole 9 yards there.
For me, I say it goes back to what I said. I mean, education, right? Like, I want to see more education. I want to see a more educated consumer. I want to see more people, I want to see cannabis continue to be destigmatized, right? And people begin to be understanding and open to having those conversations, those dialogues. I want to see more people like yourself, operating on the non-plant touching side, but enhancing the things that we're doing, being able to tell the stories, being able to have the storytelling and the conversations where it does become more, regular and more conversational and more open-minded across the board. Those are some of the things that I'd love to see change. Some of the things that I want to see stay is really the communal aspect. If you think about it, cannabis is a communal drug. Yeah, there's not, and let me take that back. Yeah, I don't even want to call it a drug. Mm-hmm. Cannabis is a communal activity, right? Like, people tend to gather around each other and say, hey, let's have a session, right? Let's roll one together, right? Like, when you think about it, I think back, and not to knock alcohol by any stretch of imagination, but I can think about all the times I hung out with my friends when we went out to a bar and drank, and how many fights broke out and things happened from that perspective. And I think back, like, I don't think I've ever seen a fight break out from a group coming together and rolling up and saying, hey, let's relax, let's talk, let's kick it, let's vibe, let's play video games, whatever the case it may be, whatever it may provide for you. So the thing that I love the most about the cannabis industry is I feel like, there's no true kind of lane for the cannabis user, right? Like, the cannabis user could be somebody that plays Dungeons and Dragons, 12 hours a day. It could be somebody that plays basketball, listens to rap music. There's no, there's no one side of the aisle that you have to sit on, and if you're not on that end, you're not a cool kid. Right. One of the things I would like to see, kind of as the industry grows, and I'll say our team's done a great job of doing it. I wasn't a caregiver, right? Like, I don't come from the traditional market. Okay. But they don't treat me that way. But you do see in some places in the cannabis space, they talk down to people, or down about people that are kind of curious or new to the market or new to the industry, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. And so now they're not asking those questions, right? Like, people don't feel comfortable coming into the dispensary and really saying, hey, I have no clue what I'm doing here. I'm looking for something to cure my anxiety, or I'm looking for something to help me sleep, or whatever the case may be. That level of comfort to be able to raise your hand and say, I really don't know what I'm doing here. Can somebody educate me? There are a lot of OGs in the cannabis space that I've seen and experienced, like, kind of with that, like, down talking and, man, you don't know what you're talking about. You weren't around. Right. Like, being able to strip some of that back and be aware of, yes, there are people that crawl, walk so the market can run the way it is now. And we have to pay homage or respect those people. But there's also a whole lot of people that are new to the industry, new to the market for one reason or another, like myself, that I was a high school and collegiate athlete, right? Like if I smoked or was involved in it, my career was over. So there are people that are coming, they're going to be new to it, right? And that's okay. And I like to see more people put their arms around those new people and say, hey, how can I uplift you? How can I educate you? How can I teach you the things that I learned in my 20 years of experience versus turn you away with that?
Yeah, and I just think that's just the embodiment of knowing that the market and the culture changes. Like, yeah, back in the day, we used to buy weed, you had to jump over a fence, talk to a guy, he send you that way, you get this much amount of weed for $30, and it's like, now I go to the dispensary, get an ounce for like $45 some places. Like, it's just, I think it just comes with the trends, elements, understanding that things change. I guess is one of the things I guess I didn't understand is that this company, you have different brands up under you. Pros and cons, making sure you take care of those different brands as well.
You know, I wouldn't look at it as I'm not a pros and cons person, right? I'm more, positives and areas of opportunity, right? And where can we provide more opportunity? Where can we increase? Where can we get better? Where can we grow? I think you have to look at it from multiple different lenses and multiple different lanes. When you look at it from the cultivation perspective, I'm sure that it is kind of, you have every genetic's going to grow different, right? Everything's going to need different amount of care. Everything's going to need, so there is a segmentation from that perspective. In my world, when we're looking to sell and put it into the market, for me, it's a huge pro being able. A lot of people may look at it as, hey, jack of all trades, master of none, or divided interest, divided focus. For me, it's exciting because I don't look at myself as like people always joke. My kids joke about like my dad sells weed, right? Like my dad's a drug dealer. Like I'll never forget. My son goes to he was in Catholic school last year. He was in 5th grade. His teacher was like, "Yeah, your son said you sell drugs." I'm like, "Whoa, let's dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Like this is more supply chain management than anything else."
Right.
But for me, I fashion myself as a consultant, right? So I like to understand what it is that works with that store, what it is that aligns with them. And I'm not going in with a portfolio saying, hey, I'm Justin, I'm from Pleasantrees, I have this brand, this brand, this brand, this brand. Let's throw it all on your shelf. What works, what fits, we'll figure it out. Who cares? This is what I got, take it or leave it. That's not the approach that I take or anybody on my team takes. We like to understand and learn about that store. What works for you, what are products that your customers are looking for, where's there a need on your shelf, and then being able to take that, say, okay, you take a step back, look at what we have to offer, and then come back with a solution. Hey, based off of what you said, based off of what works for your store, based off of the gaps or the holes you may have within your wall or within your inventory, this is what I recommend. And then not only is this what I recommend, this is how we're going to work alongside you to enhance with the sell-through. We're going to make sure that we educate your bud tenders. We're going to make sure that we host different, whether it be a vendor day, whether it be different promo activities, whether it be events, whatever the case may be, we want to be a true partner to you, and not just a sales organization. So for me, I'm excited about having multiple brands because it allows me to truly, give that client what works and fits best for them without feeling like I have to force a square peg into a round hole. And I have to, it's like, okay, if this doesn't work for you, then we can't do business together. Because, like I said, there's a lot of, there's customers that own stores that, for my entire time here, never bought from us, but I have great relationships with them. Right. And that's important to me. I don't want to force something on your wall, and then it sits there and ages out, and then it's because it's not a good fit for your demographic or your location, right, or whatever the case may be. So being able to have multiple things in your portfolio, for me, is great because now I can find the right solution for each individual door.
And from my grower perspective, I really like having the multiple brands underneath this facility. I got 25,000 square feet of canopy space in this facility alone. That's a lot of canopy. Okay, if I'm growing just for Pleasantrees, I'm going to water down the Pleasantrees market pretty heavily. But also, they take a lot of the weight off my shoulders. They do their own internal pheno hunts. They give me what they know already they like, and we grow it to their specifications. I can collaborate with these people, and they're all across the country, and we put our heads together if something doesn't look quite right, and we can fix it. So we bounce off ideas. This is like a brotherhood again. And I have not just my head growers to lean on, but I can call my other partners and be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. What do you think about it? And they can give me criticism. They can give me advice. They can tell us to steer things a certain way. And we're trying to get the best out of every single plant we grow. So it's really nice that this is a team effort rather than individual silos. So they take half the work out of pheno hunting. Like, here's what I want to grow. This is my dedicated space for it, and here's how to do it. So it takes a lot of effort off my own plate. I don't have to worry about 25,000 square feet. Now I have to worry about X amount, because this is what the Pleasantrees canopy really takes up compared to my other brands now as well. So it's really nice to have multiple brands under the same umbrella.
So I know I asked you this during when we did the tour. However, I want to ask you it again to get to see if the perspective changes. What are what you specifically, the caregiver kind of care for the plant? Like, how are you able to still have that essence about you, and then still be in the metric market, which is all still cannabis, but how are you able to still to kind of like hold that in and still have that care for the plant when the trends sometimes doesn't always?
The cannabis industry is primed for cutting edges, okay? Cutting corners at every possible way to both save yourself time and money, and we don't do that. I've refused to do it. That's why we hand trim along the way. That's why we do, from every step of our process, everything is done with a person's hand in mind. It's never done automated. It's never done by machine, other than our irrigation system. That's our only automated process. But from the moment we take a cut to the moment it is harvested, it's all touched by human hands. The defoliating is a big one that a lot of people like to skip out on because it's so time consuming, it's so labor intensive, and it's hard. That's a strenuous job to do day to day. You're reaching in those plants, you're pulling out those leaves, you're bending over, you're standing up. It's like, that's not an easy job to do, and I thought it'd be a revolving door of people. But we treat our people right. We treat them like they're humans. I want them to be happy, healthy, and like I said, they've stayed. So I can continue to do these tasks that a lot of people would skip on or say on to the next, with the caregiver type quality, and ensuring that we take that to harvest. And then even after harvest, we do a low and slow dry. We want our product, that moisture, to come out of there slow, so we're creating the best possible product possible. We do a 9-day dry. Some people may shorten that all the way to like 6 days on occasion. That seems crazy to me. You're going to lose your nose, you're going to lose terpene flavor, the whole 9 yards there. And then something else that a lot of people are skipping out is the hand trimming. We're going to preserve the integrity of our bud. We're going to preserve the integrity of our flower. We're going to preserve the trichomes. We're going to preserve the terpene flavors. But then the curing phase, a lot of people skip it completely. That is so imperative to the final flavor and outcome of that product, that when it gets to your hand, that it is actually a nice smokable product. We do a 7 to 14 day cure on all of our products before they ever leave this facility. A lot of people, as soon as it's dried, as soon as it's trimmed, it's out the door. And they don't intensify those flavors. They don't intensify that profile. And then you're left with, all right, this smells like hay. This doesn't taste good. It tastes like nothing. So we really try to do that craft elements that a lot of people just want to burn and turn at that point. And it's like, no, we're going to take our time. We're going to get this out the door. Harvest date was X, and you're getting it on still, day 30, day 35. That's still fresh flower. Yeah. Just because you're getting it 14 days from harvest doesn't mean it's better here. And again, that all comes back to that education, making sure that people are properly informed of what actually techniques are better, what is better for the end results. And those are some of the few techniques that we still do here that set us apart. Defoliating by hand, trimming by hand, the long cure process to ensure that each bud is meticulous. And yeah.
So when you go through the different processes of the cultivation, and you finally get to try the products, how do you guys feel about it once you've put so much into this?
Hopefully, usually I'm ecstatic about the product we're trying, especially if it's a new pheno, a new flavor profile that we brought in, that we read all about, we were excited about. Hopefully it's a very positive experience. Am I willing to state that every single flower I've ever pulled out of here has been a banger? No, I'm not that arrogant. There's been some stuff I've been highly disappointed in along the way, and I've had to just been like, all right, we got another set coming through. We're going to cut our losses here. This is the last run of it. But by and large, because we take such gentle care of the product along the way, we're left with a very positive outcome, very pleasant experience at the end of the day. It's usually very flavorful, very robust, even if it doesn't test that great. Like at the end of the day, that test result doesn't matter. That number that on that bag, I've cut some 15% weed out of here that I thought was some of the best stuff we've ever grown. But unfortunately, a consumer will see a 15% weed on the shelf and they're like, I don't want that. And it's like, just smell it, just taste it, just open it. I promise you, 2 puffs of this will get you just as toasted as 1 puff of that. And you'll be just as happy, if not happier, at the end of the day. So yeah, education at the end of the day is where it's all going to be paramount.
For me, I love the product, right? And it's not just the experience, it's not just the quality, it's not just I love all of that. But to me, the biggest part for me is peace of mind of knowing that I'm not going to be sitting on a mesothelioma commercial 20 years from now talking about if you smoke this in 2023,
you get medical medication.
Right? Like I don't have to worry about the remediation or what might be going into my lungs or what effect that may have on me, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So the cleanliness of the product is huge. That's something that stands out to me. I do try a lot of different products in the market. And like I said, there are a lot of really good brands. There's a lot of people that are doing a good job in the market, and I enjoy being able to interact with that. So I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, there's nobody else that's anywhere near what we provide or produce. That's not true, and I don't believe in that. I'm a very realist person. I like the Michigan market. I think that there's a lot of people, there's a lot of good competition in the market.
Absolutely.
And I think with that, rising tide lifts all boats. So the more we all work together and start to really push like what quality flower looks like and what quality flower is, there's enough room and enough market share and enough opportunity for all of us to be successful. That's really the thing for me. I love the product because I know the quality's there. I know the cleanliness is there, and it's also fire product. I think it's about time for the industry to start to talk through those things and again elevate, because there's some really good companies out there that have some of the same processes that we have, but being able to elevate those to the top and make that some of the focal points, some of the top of the conversations. How clean is your product, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you replace hey, that THC percentage, if you replace that with non-remediated and that's the first thing you talk about, and then the next thing, I'm okay with that, right? So just being able to educate the consumers. But those are things I love the most about our products. So.
Got you.
Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. For you, because you smoke as well, or okay? What's y'all top 5 strains of all time?
The strain that got me originally into weed, the first one was AK-47. That still resonates. There's a Bubba Kush somewhere along the way that I fell in love with, and then I'll go with my current favorites. That Pink Escalade that I showed you in the vault. That's my probably new one that I absolutely love, and Grape Gas 2.0. That is hands down my absolute favorite right now. And then I've got something that I refuse to kill off in the facility because it doesn't test well. And I know that it sometimes it struggles when we get it to market because it never tests well, but it's freaking banging flower and it yields like a brick house and it smells great. And it's pineapple tart that we have here. And I know that my bosses probably wanted me to throw that thing out a long time ago, but I'm like, the market's going to change one day where they're going to understand that THC doesn't reign supreme, and I'm going to pull that out of the woodwork and blow some doors off with it one day. So that's my another personal favorite inside. When you open that box, it perforates the whole room. Like everybody, even the whole trim team will come out of the woodwork and be like, that's pineapple tart down there, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it sure is. So it's one of those special flowers that's going to make that I love. I've been holding on dearly. It's been in the back of the corner of the room that I hide away from my bosses in case they see it one day, but I refuse to kill it, and it's going to come back, and I grow it because I know it's banging flower, even though the test results don't kind of show that, and stuff like that. Fashion.
Man, I think back to the brickweed that I tried and you're like, Coach, you ain't got to worry about it. Because I coughed for about 45 minutes straight, like, Coach, you ain't even got to tell me not to smoke because I'm not going to do it.
Right.
But for me, man, like there's a couple of our strains that are like my tops, and then there's one that I'm trying to get here, and hopefully I'll be able to get that over to us relatively soon. But I think back to I like the nostalgia of it all. So the Blue Dream, the Jeff Bros, that was so fire, and everybody that has tried it, everybody that I've gotten it in their hands, are like, man, like That's crazy. That Blue Dream is crazy. That was one of my favorites. The SFVOG, it was so funny. We went to Snoop's concert a while back, and his team was like, man, you got to bring him. Well, you got to bring him like your latest and greatest. So, I took Snoop. I took him to SFVOG, and
Along with like 6 other flavors.
oh yeah,
Some of the hottest stuff that we got going on right now.
The other 6, it's like he was like everybody can have some of that. He had his whole crew. Everybody was like this is going with me. Right? Like he kept that SFVOG. So it's like those old school strains. I love our SVF OG, our Cap Junkie. I think our Cap Junkie is fire. There's really so much diversity, and there's different things that I'll try and I'll say, hey, that's strong. I obviously, from the Clock King family, the Wagyu is like, it's chef's kiss, every single time. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the craft standards that team does in their building and the QC that they have. And so funny, like where they'll say, hey, you know what, that doesn't meet the requirements to go into the bag. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's amazing. Like, what are you talking about? But just having that level of standard. So I can't give you one, but I could say that there's multiple that I enjoy. But for sure, I'd say probably that Blue Dream, that SFVOG, just because, again, for me, it's more of like, I like the nostalgic properties of thinking about like, hey, what was this market of, what was it all about, right? And I think back to, my tie and my connection to the Death Row brand. I think about how, when I was a kid, how, my parents both retired DPD, hearing them vilify the rappers, and all they do is smoke weed. You think about, I'm like, I think back, I'm like, man, what was that Indo that Snoop was rolling down the street, smoking on, with his gin and juice, right? Like, so the one strain that I'm pushing and I'm working on trying to get over to us is that that RBK, that OG, that Ricky's Brothers Kush, that Snoop had to have in every market they went to. I recently met with Rick Palomino, who was Snoop's tour manager from 2017, and he's all about getting that strain kind of across the finish line and out into more people's hands.
Absolutely.
It's one of those OGs we joked about, like just where the quality of where it's at now from a and where he's putting the tissue cultures at moving forward. So I'm really big on just the story behind it, right? Like, I want to know when people talk to me about what they're doing, and like, I want to know what goes into it. I want to know, why are you passionate about it?
Yeah.
It's very interesting for me when I bump into somebody that, just really loves what they do and has that passion for it, and makes it, all right, cool, let's sit down and burn one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing that, I'm always on Jeff, and like I said earlier, because I'm not much of a in front of the camera guy, I'm always on him, like, I need your story more. Because, just the passion and what he does and what his team does within this building. Say it very, very directly, very confidently. Without him and his team, there is no Pleasantrees, right? Like, that's where it starts at, and that's where it ends at. The quality of the flower. If that does not take place, if that doesn't happen, it doesn't matter what we do at the retail side. It doesn't matter what I do on the wholesale side. It doesn't matter what we do in marketing. None of that matters. It all starts and ends here in this building, and the things that his team does and the processes that they put in. It's a painstaking process. It's not easy doing the things that they do.
Right.
You come in here on a Monday and you see the whole building, pulling down a room. You'll see the collaborative communal effort that goes into that, and you'll see, damn, that's not something that can be automated.
Right.
That's not something that can be like turned over to just anybody.
Yeah, there's things that do automate it, but I've just beat the weed to all heck, and it's like, I refuse to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to cut this down by hand. They're going to take care of each and every branch. So there's a lot of love.
That takes time. What does the future look like for the company and for you guys individually, going in, wrapping up this year and going into next year? What is the, goals, or what are the, from your perspective?
Yeah, I'll give you my perspective as well. Like, I'm fully committed. I've been here since day one, right after we got our first plants in the ground, before we ever saw our first harvest. So I've watched this company from explode right off the gate, and then just being in the weeds and fighting every other company out there for our carving of the market share. So I'm fully committed. This is now part of who I am as a person. This is part of what I want to be successful. I love the people that I work with. I always, like I told you earlier, I work in a cool industry, and I work with cool people. It's the best of both worlds. Why would I ever leave that? So where I see myself is right here. As long as they're willing to have me, as long as they're willing to keep me, as long as we can keep fighting forward, this is where I want to be. I think the sky's the limit as far as our potential. I think we've barely scratched the surface. I think we've come a long way over the last couple of years of people realizing we're not just corporate weed. You know, we had a bad rap of being corporate weed for a little bit, and I understand that. We're a large company. We're vertically integrated. Yeah, it's easy to see from an outside perspective. Yeah, they're just corporate guys, and they're trying to grow on a mass scale. But no, we're family-oriented people that care about the plant, that care about each other, that care about the livelihood of all the people I work with, and that's what resonates to a better quality product at the end of the day. Like Justin said, the no remediation. I feel confident that every bud I put to market, I would smoke. Okay, I can't feel that way about every other company out there. There's a lot of people skipping those corners on those tedious processes, those things that matter at the end of the day. And we do it all, and we do it well. I always tell people they can keep up with us in one of two ways. They can either match our quality or they can match our quantity. There's not many people that can do both. You know, for somehow we're pulling it, we're doing both in the grand scheme. So at the end of the day, for me, I'm going to be here. At the end of the day, I think the future is sky high for Pleasantrees because we're turning that persona back around, that we're not just corporate weed. We're weed people that happen to be in a corporate setting. And we treat it as such, but at the end of the day, we still love this product. We still have an immense love for this field and immense love for each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can echo everything Jeff said. You know, for me, this is 1 year into this, right? And our chief legal officer, Jerome Crawford, always talks about Pleasantrees 5.0, 6.0. And really, for me, it's like, this is the only Pleasantrees I know, right?
Right.
Like, I didn't know, 5 years ago where it was at. All I know is where we're at today and where we're trying to get to. And from my perspective, one of the things Jerome always talks about is do well to do good, right? So for me, my focus is on some of our social equity initiatives, being able to continue to grow and navigate through those, being able to continue to uplift the market, being able to continue to educate, being able to continue to just make the industry a better place for our time and our presence being there. So that's kind of my focal point. I can't give you a real tangible number. Hey, I want us to be in X amount of doors.
Right.
I want us to make X amount of dollars. To me, that's a byproduct of the success that we do in other places, right?
Right.
If we do our jobs educating the market on what we do and what we do great, if we do our jobs on providing a great experience for everybody that encounters us, those things will happen by osmosis, right? We'll end up on more shelves. More people will enjoy our products. Those things will happen. For me, I just want to continue to bring positivity to the space. I want us to continue to double down on our social equity initiatives. We do a lot within the community. We do a lot within the community that extends outside of our 5 doors. We're all about helping and all about growing and being good stewards of this Michigan market. So for me, when I look at like the next 12 months, I look at kind of what Jeff touched on, which is like kind of pulling apart that corporate mindset of people looking at us as a corporate brand and looking at us as a quality brand, as a craft cannabis brand.
Absolutely.
And being able to provide that effort to the consumers. But I also want to keep having fun. I have fun every single day. Like, there's not a day that I wake up and go to work and I'm like, oh damn, I got to go do this again. I have fun and I enjoy doing it. We're winning right now, and I love winning with people that I have fun doing alongside. So that's my focus moving forward, is how can we continue to win? How can we identify our areas of growth, our areas of opportunity where we can improve our processes and get better every single day and continue to bring great people around us that we enjoy winning with. And that's really what I want to see happen. We have a great team. We have great people. We continue to grow every single day. We have new people joining our team. We have people that have been here forever. And just seeing that integration and seeing everybody bring their different perspectives to the table, and it being a melting pot, to the point of you asking, hey, how does your previous experience impact that? Everybody on our team has a previous life, right? There's something they did before. There's some vantage point and perspective that they can bring to the table that can make this better.
Right.
And we have a great feedback loop. We have a great team. We have a great organization. You're seeing me and Jeff, but there's hundreds of people behind us that all do a great job with their jobs, that all love what they do, from our bud tenders at the store level to our people in processing. Without them handling and navigating through and making sure that things are getting where they need to get to. Again, it's supply chain management. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Tori, who runs our supply chain, and she's, you know, her and I, like, she's calling me like, bro, are you serious? You just sent that request through? Like, yeah. And she's like, I'll try and make it work. But without, you know, those people that I think don't get enough attention or enough, you know, praise or enough thank you, all of them are integral to the success in what we do.
Right.
You know, so that's really what I see. Is I see a group of people that all really love what they do. They see the market and they see the tumultuous nature of that. Sometimes that can be scary, but I hope that they see that we're all fighting to make sure that there is a better tomorrow, and that we're all fighting to ensure that when that tomorrow comes, Pleasantrees is not only there, but it's one of the pinnacles. It's one of the top names in the conversation, and that's what we're doing right now, is to make sure that happens.
Absolutely. Isn't any specific shout outs y'all want to give out?
Man, I could go all day, and my fear is when I start to call out individuals, I feel like there's individuals that get missed. You know, without a doubt, I'd say, you know, Jeff and his entire team, right? All encompassing, you know, the quality, the people that are trimming, right? Like, I think that that's so important on a daily basis, and that's something that I can confidently go to market and talk to my customers about, is what's happening in that trim room. I don't know those people by name, but they are so important to the process of what we do. They deserve a major shout out. Yeah. Tori and Michael, who handle our processing, their entire team that navigate to make sure. I mean, look, we have customers and clients from, you know, the border in Menominee down to New Buffalo over to Monroe, and they make sure that those packages end up where they need to get to, and they do a phenomenal job. You know, our marketing team, our director of marketing, Ryan Wood, and his whole team, you know, he does an amazing job making sure that representation and what you see of Pleasantrees is something that we can all be proud of. Right. You know, I was a little sad last night watching us go into the 15th inning and lose that ball game, but, you know, Ryan with his billboards, and you know, one that I loved when we were playing against Cleveland, he had a billboard that went up and said, Cleveland drives here to buy their gas. And that to me was like the dopest billboard I've seen. So him and his team, you know, our HR team, they do a great job holding everything together. So, you know, I could go on and on and on. I think that, you know, the whole is what it is because of the sum of everybody collectively that is a part of what we do. So there is no one person that's more important than the other. We have an amazing group of people that want to be here, that choose to wake up every day to come here. There's so many different options and places they could work at, places they could be at, and they're choosing Pleasantrees on a daily basis. So all of them are phenomenal, and I just have to take my hat off to every single one of them.
Yeah, everybody is absolutely willing, and it's hard to name names just because I don't want to leave anybody out. And there have been some of my personal employees at this level. This facility is running 24/7, 365. There is no holidays, there is no weekends. I have somebody in this facility every single day, and when things go wrong, I have certain people that come in and fix this stuff in the middle of the night. So like my head growers, Kenny Keefe, Evan Williams, they're worth their weight in gold. My director of cultivation, Adam Bishop, Damon Aiello, like these are people that don't just go above and beyond. They go so far past that line that I can't ask that of them. It's just in their nature to do this stuff because we love it. We care about the pulse of the company. This is the lifeblood at the end of the day. We are all committed to ensuring that we're putting the best possible product forward, and our personal sacrifices mean nothing in the grand scheme to everything, but in the moments they're huge. And these people do a lot of hard work that goes unnoticed on a daily basis. But my entire team at the cultivation level, that's who I spend each and every day with. All of them have been hand chosen at this point. They've all been through the weeds. They've all been highly skilled. They've all come a long way. So every single person here is absolutely worth a shout out because they're quality humans. You know, like we've worked through the bad apples. We pulled the rug out from under some people that didn't deserve to be here. Yeah, they really are. They've been here. They've been here through it all, and we've got quality humans that operate within these four walls, and every single person here I would vouch for in some capacity.
Absolutely, you guys have been great guests. You guys are share different perspectives, which y'all have in common is the consistency, the quality, the care, and then the service. So I appreciate y'all for coming on the podcast. You have been great guests. Thank you for the opportunity. It was a great tour and great conversation with you guys. I look forward to building with y'all in the future.
Appreciate you coming out.
This been Smoke Some Podcast, The Visionary Mind. I see it, I think it, I make it happen. Yo.